This is the safest shelter. It's built beneath a boulder weighing tens of thousands of tons and can be erected using only a single fire. The interior space is over a dozen square meters and it's fully equipped. The exterior boasts a beautifully landscaped courtyard. There's also an abundant supply of fruit nearby. You'll definitely be reluctant to leave after 2 days here. Old Sue, whom I hadn't seen in a while, returned to the jungle. He was wearing worn camouflage pants, a black top, and a heavy backpack, looking well prepared. Soon, Old Sue's attention was drawn to a large rock. After examining it carefully, he immediately came up with the idea of turning it into a shelter. The first thing he had to do was to get rid of the dead branches and weeds that had grown there. This would allow him to make his next move. Then Old Sue pulled out his 5-piece jungle set from his backpack: an axe, a shovel, a chisel, a hammer, and a drafting iron. He then cut off 2 pieces of small flying sticks. After scraping off the thick bark he assembled, armed with a shovel and a pickaxe, Lao Su set to work, ready to fight. With his handy tools in hand, he began clearing the dead branches and weeds around the boulder. With the help of his tools, Lao Su's work progressed smoothly. Soon the base of the boulder and the surrounding ground were clean. He also had to carefully knock down the loose rocks above the boulder. It was clear that a large number of ants were hiding in the cracks. To more effectively solve this problem, Lao Su went to the neighborhood to gather a large amount of firewood. He planned to use pyrotechnic tactics to effectively kill the insect eggs inside while keeping the entire interior dry and comfortable. Once everything was ready, he lit the fire. The flames spread rapidly, blazing. The snake licked the surface around the boulder, destroying the hidden insect eggs one by one and drying out the moisture inside. A pipa sounded. Unable to withstand the heat, the boulder began to gradually crack. Accompanied by bursts of crackling sounds, the stones on the surface of the boulder began to fall apart, falling off. As time went by, the entire cave was in ruins after the fire. Dealing with the large amount of debris was extremely time-consuming. He saved the larger pieces, which would be essential materials for building a shelter. The space was noticeably more spacious after the cleanup. The current height wasn't enough to live in it. He needed to continue digging to expand the interior. Old Sue sweated profusely as he hammered at the hard earth. Each swing sent a splatter of dirt. As he dug deeper, the expansion of space became increasingly apparent. The originally narrow cave gradually widened. Sunlight streamed through the cracks in the ceiling and mottled shadows danced across the ground, bringing a hint of life to the previously dark space. Just as the debris inside was cleared, a light rain began to fall from the sky. Raindrops dripped through the cracks in the ceiling, emitting a faint glow. A unique, refreshing scent gradually faded. Lao Shu began planning his next steps. He first mixed rainwater with soil to create some wild cement. Then he collected some evenly sized stones and mixed them with cement to seal the gaps within. He meticulously arranged the stones, each fitting tightly together, leaving no gaps. To create a pleasant living environment, the walls were also painted with a layer of rhubarb. This not only protected against moisture, but also prevented insects and ants from invading. The entire space looked much tidier. As for the protruding boulder on one side, Lao Shu, with his single skillful hands and over 30 years of experience painting it, instantly transformed it into a magnificent desk. The finished product was comparable to a professional renovation. After completing this task, Lao Shu, armed with a hacksaw, headed deep into the dense jungle. He selected 2 long fallen trees and cut the thickest and strongest sections from the bush. Lao Shu then placed the stone in the ground. He cut some wood into appropriate lengths, preparing them for use as supports and internal structure. He already had a plan in mind, aiming to transform this space into a safe and comfortable nest. He carefully selected and processed each piece of wood to ensure its stability and durability. After gathering enough materials, he cut some small pieces of wood and chopped them into firewood shapes. He then lit a bonfire and built a campfire stand. He then boiled a pot of hot water to replenish his calories. After eating and drinking, he began to process the collected firewood. He first drilled holes in 2 logs, then dug 2 appropriately sized pits in the middle of the cave entrance. He then inserted the 2 processed logs into them. The pits were dug to the appropriate depth, just enough to allow the logs to stand firmly. Lao Shu then used a log to connect the 2 logs to form a door frame, ensuring they would not shake. Finally, he added mud. The soil backfill was welded firmly. Since he didn't have any wild iron nails, he could only use a wooden awl. Once he had mastered drilling the corresponding holes, he inserted and fixed them with sharpened thin branches to enhance the stability of the entire structure. For the construction of the 2 walls, he planned to use the most efficient stone stacking tool. After he dug a well-defined tunnel, he collected more stones and mixed some cement. Once everything was ready, he began to build the walls upwards, layering the cement and the stones one at a time. Each layer was smooth and tightly combined to ensure the wall's strength. While painting, he also deliberately left space for the fireplace. The opening was just the right size to ensure the flames burned fully without taking up too much space. When the walls reached the right height, he carefully built a chimney behind the fireplace to ensure the smoke could be discharged smoothly and not trapped inside. Considering the ventilation and lighting, Lao Shu left space on the other side of the wall. A window of just the right size ensures air circulation while allowing ample light into the room, making the entire space appear brighter and more airy. He also paid special attention to the arrangement of the stones, ensuring they were not only durable, but also aesthetically pleasing. The chimney section was even higher than the roof. He carefully calculated its height to ensure it could effectively expel smoke from the outside without appearing too prominent and disrupting the overall aesthetic. To expand the courtyard's usable area, he removed the obstructing dirt piles on the side, clearing away the disorganized rubble and soil one by one, creating a relatively flat area. To prevent the soil from sliding during the rainy season, he collected flat stone slabs from a 60-kilometer radius and attached them to the wall with cement, forming a solid retaining wall. These slabs were not only hard but also smooth, making them ideal for enhancing the wall's stability and aesthetics. He then arranged the remaining slabs according to the following criteria. Each slab was meticulously polished and smooth to ensure comfortable and safe walking. The paving not only gave the interior a neater and more orderly appearance, but also added a rustic and natural feel. The gaps between the slabs were filled with a mixture of fine sand and cement to enhance the bond between the slabs, making the entire floor more durable and sturdy. The finished product rivaled marble. To unify the interior and exterior decor, he spent the better part of a day creating the exterior courtyard. The materials and colors echoed the interior, creating a perfect blend of indoor and outdoor styles and creating a comfortable and beautiful living environment. After completing these tasks, he went inside to light the fireplace, shortening the cement shaping time. He then went to pick some delicious wild lychees. The wild lychees were plump and juicy. This gift from nature not only delighted his taste buds, but also added a unique touch to his home. After he had eaten and drunk his fill, he selected some good quality bamboo strips, cut them into the required lengths, and patiently separated them into strips. Each strip was evenly and delicately sliced, laying a solid foundation for the next steps. Lao Shu, a local foreigner, made the most of the wild resources. He was also a disciple of Liu Ban, who was shut out. His masterful carpentry skills made him a natural fit during the construction process. Whether crafting the door hinge or carving the eyelets of the door panel frame, he was at ease. He skillfully used his tools to cut grooves in the two logs at corresponding locations. After assembling these parts, he could insert the bamboo strips one by one, ensuring a tight fit between the strips and the wood. As the work progressed, a door that was both practical and beautiful gradually took shape. Thanks to the precise calculation of the dimensions, the door opened and closed with incredible smoothness. To ensure a comfortable night's sleep, Lao Shu repeated the previous steps. He built a single bed just for himself. This size was perfect for him. His shelter was now complete. To celebrate his new home, he pulled 3 potatoes and a half-ripped ham from his backpack, sprinkled them with some seasonings, and marinated them. When the heat was just right, he threw the potatoes into the fireplace. Meanwhile, the marinated ham was also roasted inside. Old Shu sat patiently, turning the roasted items occasionally to ensure even heating. As time passed, the ham took on an alluring dark brown color, its flesh tender and juicy. He eagerly devoured it with the potatoes. After a satisfying meal, he closed the door to his shelter, made his bed, and retired early. With plenty of time off, Old Shu didn't bother to add to the highway congestion. Instead, he hiked into the spring-filled jungle. After wandering for 2.5 hours, he arrived at a 10,000-ton boulder. The ample space at the bottom only needed a little renovation. It was definitely a good place. Habitat. This made his construction genes agitated. Even the intangible cultural heritage of crawling into the tree hole made his anus tighten. He then began clearing the surrounding overgrown weeds. After clearing the remaining debris, the coffin lid's original appearance was fully revealed. Oh no, it was a 10,000-ton boulder. Don't throw away the rocks cleared from the bottom. They will be perfect materials for building a shelter. The interior of the tree has long been severely rotted and hollowed out. Placing them to one side will be useful sooner or later. The loose rocks at the top pose a huge safety hazard, so they must be cleared away to prevent a midnight encounter with Tai Yuan. Fortunately, Lao Shu brought a full complement of tools this time, so the cleanup was relatively simple. However, the current depth was still far from enough to hold his head high in there. So, Lao Shu, armed with a hacksaw, headed deeper into Tongling and cut some already dried firewood, intending to set fire to the cave, effectively killing. While killing the insect eggs inside, it also created a dry and comfortable environment inside. Finally, under the roaring fire, the top stones, unable to withstand the intense heat, fell down. Time ticked by, and the falling debris left the entire cave in a mess. The cleaning process was extremely tedious and took a considerable amount of time. After clearing the fallen rubble, he used a shovel to level the interior soil with the exterior courtyard. Once everything was ready, Lao Shu headed straight for the river, fetched a bucket of clear river water, and mixed it thoroughly with the previously cleared loess. This was the strongest adhesive in the wild. He then returned to the river and collected some round stones, fully preparing the windproof wall. After more than a dozen trips back and forth, he finally prepared the building materials. Once completed, he could begin stacking the foundation, layering the soil and stone stones. Considering the significant temperature difference between day and night in the jungle, there was a part of port's tops. A fireplace, both for heating and cooking, is crucial. It also effectively addresses internal dampness. When the walls reached a certain height, Lao Shu moved the battle indoors and sealed the inner walls with stones. This effectively prevented debris from falling and made the interior much cleaner. After wiping off the remaining dirt on the stones with a rag, the shelter's interior instantly became more beautiful. He continued with the final wall, filling the tiny gaps. Only by filling them tightly enough could any leaks escape. Afterward, Lao Shu found a sturdy wooden board and placed it at the bottom of the door as a lintel. Seeing the project drawing closer to completion, he was filled with anticipation for his new home. He then found the hollowed-out tree stump and carefully cleaned the rotten interior with a chisel. Afterward, he evenly applied a layer of clay to ensure the wood could withstand the heat. Now, all he needed to do was securely connect it to the fireplace chimney and seal the gap with 10 pieces of clay. This natural smoke onion was just the right size. He then cut some dried sap and chopped it into firewood shapes, allowing the fireplace to burn quickly. This would not only dry the fireplace faster, but also remove moisture from the room. He then went to the river and fetched a pot of fresh river water, placing it on the fireplace and waiting for it to boil. Since there were still many things to improve, Lao Shu simply had a few bites of instant noodles for lunch. After a hearty meal, Lao Shu headed back to the jungle and selected some slender bamboo shoots. In the process, he also discovered some tender bamboo shoots. Now he had dinner. He packed up the food and brought it back to the shelter. He cut the bamboo shoots into the lengths he needed and used them to harden the floor. After all, according to his plan, the floor would also be his bed. The bamboo would effectively prevent moisture from entering his body. The finished product was quite comfortable. Considering privacy, he used ropes to tightly weave the remaining bamboo sections together, creating a rolling shutter-style door panel. While the finished product looked fragile and threatening, it was actually not very safe at all. After completing this, he found two hollowed-out dressing tables, one for an outdoor dining table and the other for a fireplace. Just looking at the blazing flames revealed just how powerful this fireplace was. His shelter was now complete. He washed the bamboo shoots by the river and then simmered them in clean water. He then dug up some purple sweet potatoes nearby and roasted them in the fireplace. After waiting for 2 hours, he could block the door with a large opening. The bamboo shoots were paired with some secret fish sauce. This comfortable life was simply too good to be true. After eating and drinking his fill, Lao Shu retired early. Unexpectedly, not long after falling asleep, he heard a call from his neighbor's partner. He was startled. He immediately went outside, lit the stove by the door to scare away the wolves. After waiting a moment and making sure they were gone, he returned home with peace of mind, fixed the windows, and spent a peaceful night. Difa, a worldly man, had stumbled upon a natural cave while out and about. The cave had ample space, and it was definitely more than enough for him. Nestled between mountains and water, with birds chirping and cicadas buzzing, it was a perfect feng shui location for living. Considering the abundance of insects and ants in the forest and its unique rainforest climate, the interior was also very humid, so he went nearby and chopped some firewood with a knife. The weather in the forest was always unpredictable, and without warning, a torrential downpour began. Fortunately, he had a safe haven to avoid being drenched. After the rain stopped, Difa lit the firewood he had gathered and used it to create a large fire cupping jar in the damp cave. For a moment, smoke billowed from the cave. He also used this opportunity to clear the weeds in front of the door. After clearing a cleared area, the rocks inside couldn't withstand the intense heat, and many fragments fell off. He put these fragments to good use, saving time collecting materials and making the interior much more spacious. So Difa decided to go all out and continued adding more firewood. Judging from the current situation, it wasn't impossible to take over his 2-bedroom apartment. Time passed by, and the rocks in the cave fell off after the burning, making it look very messy. The cave had reached the height Difa had desired. Dealing with these rocks would take a considerable amount of time. Any loose rocks were a safety hazard and needed to be cleared away as soon as possible. Otherwise, if something unexpected happened, even future generations would be left with nothing. After finishing his work, he went too. He dug up some soil soil nearby and simply spread it flat on the ground. After evenly smoothing it with a shovel, he used a tool to tamp it down and harden it. This way, he wouldn't have to worry about sharp stones puncturing his aorta. He then went to the river and found some relatively round stones. He'd need a lot of these, so he tossed them back and forth over a dozen times. When he was done, he added some source of life to the soil. After thoroughly mixing it, he became the strongest species in the wild. Now, with a layer of clay and a layer of stone, he began to seal the walls of the shelter. This would prevent stone debris from falling and make the entire interior much cleaner. To prevent soil from falling off after drying, he even added a caulking treatment. With such smooth craftsmanship, we can only compare to one. If the renovation team wanted to live here long term, they had to address the dampness inside. Therefore, a spacious fireplace was essential. As for the smoke exhaust chimney, it perfectly utilized the gap at the top. To ensure adequate carbon monoxide emission, a half-meter height was added to the top. After completing the final finishing work, the remaining stones were stacked on one side to create steps up and down. The cleared stone fragments were a good filler for the gaps inside. Finally, clay was used to seal the top, and a layer of stone slabs was laid to seal the countertop, easily solving the problem of slippery conditions during rain. He then moved the remaining stones indoors, used them to mark the outline of the bed, and filled the interior with dry mud mattresses. The bed was leveled, and then several pieced two stones as the bed. After carefully stitching them together and wiping them, the result was visible to the naked eye. This size was just right for him. After finishing all this, he went to pick up a bundle of firewood nearby and successfully lit the fireplace to speed up the drying process. At the same time, he boiled a pot of hot water and skewered 2 sausages. Since there was still much work to do, he simply ate a few bites. After eating and drinking, he dragged his tired body indoors and took a short rest. A moment later, he was awakened by a cool breeze. He immediately went to collect more body parts nearby to prepare for the final wall. The same familiar formula and construction process, but with previous construction experience, he built it now. His movements became swift. When the building reached a height of over a meter, he also needed to build windows in advance to ensure ventilation and lighting. After finishing the final details, the shelter's initial outline was revealed. Considering the privacy of the shelter's entrance, he found 2 sections of dried combs and trimmed them to the appropriate size. The shorter one would serve as the threshold, and the longer one would serve as the gate. After arranging them in their ideal positions, he headed straight for the river again. This time, he planned to try his luck and see if he could find some delicious seafood. Unexpectedly, he had a good harvest. In addition to some thank you fish, he also found 2 delicious-looking catfish. It looked like he could have a good meal today. Just by hearing the crisp sound, it was a real test for teeth. He smoked the remaining catfish and saved it for tomorrow's breakfast. The next day arrived in a flash. Deefa, who was particular about personal hygiene, selected a wooden rug from the fireplace and pounded it into mud with a stick. This was the perfect companion for cleaning teeth outdoors. Using your fingers often provided a good cleaning effect, though for those with a very discerning palate, it might be a little less effective. After simply storing the 2 smoked fish at the tree attached high school, he used the remaining stones to improve the flooring inside. This would not only make cleaning the interior much easier, but more importantly, it would elevate the interior to a higher level. And for aesthetic reasons, he went to a nearby meadow and obtained some fresh grass. Upon returning, he transplanted it to the entrance of the shelter and on both sides of the steps. He added some greenery to his new home, blending it in with the surroundings. For his own safety, he went to harvest some tea leaves. After all, his new home was right on the riverbank. If anything went wrong, he could see his grandmother early. Therefore, a sturdy fence was essential. Although the vertical forks were irregular and the shapes varied, Defa's deft hands managed to create a chaotic aesthetic. This was truly a testament to the power of skill. As the shelter gradually completed, the only thing left was the quick installation of the gate. While the process of laying the planks wasn't complicated, it was a real test of Defa's skill. Ultimately, it took 2.5 hours. Time. After filming these clusters of wooden planks, after finishing, I selected a log and made a drill bit. Combined with the wooden planks, I assembled them into a rectangular frame. I drilled corresponding holes at the intersections with a hand drill. I then used a wooden awl to secure them together. A row of wooden planks were inserted into the gaps inside. Once secured, I had a densely ventilated door panel. Now, I just needed to drill 2 corresponding round holes at each end of the door frame. Afterward, I carefully joined the door panel. Although not a single nail was used, the door opened and closed incredibly smoothly. As life in the wild entered its proper place, I used my free time to fish, take a cold shower at my doorstep, change into dry clothes, and sit by the fireplace, eating grilled fish. This unfettered life is simply wonderful.